Now from WATN, it's Local 24 This Week with Richard Ransom.
Welcome to Local 24 This Week, the place you can turn to every Sunday at 9 a.m. and 10:35 p.m. to get the real story behind the big stories. Here are our topics for today. Trash talk. Will the City Council reconsider its vote on hiking trash pickup fees to avoid the layoffs of nearly 300 full and part-time sanitation workers? Zoo booze. There's a bill at the state capitol to allow alcohol to be served at the Memphis Zoo. Is this a good idea for a venue which markets itself as family-friendly? And downtown development concerns. Every week, it seems there's news of another million or even billion-dollar investment in some downtown project, but is the city at risk of being a little too smitten sometimes? We'll get to all of that in the next half hour with my roundtable. Susan Adler-Thorpe and Otis Sanford will be here for that. But first, our one-on-one segment, and we're happy to have with us the outgoing City Council Chairman, Kemp Conrad. Thank you, Kemp, for coming in today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Richard. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're about to be the outgoing City Council Chairman. Just a couple weeks left in the term.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? What was your biggest accomplishment as you look back?
Well, I don't look at it in terms of what I've accomplished, but really what we've accomplished together, the City Council, the mayor, all the different stakeholders that we work with. And that's one thing that when I came in as chairman in 2016 with this new council, Mayor Strickland had just come off the council, was really working together to set a new tone on how we led city government in the city of Memphis, and one that was focused on collaboration and really a business-like approach. It didn't mean that we didn't disagree on things or people didn't disagree, but you know, we tried to do it respectfully, and you can disagree without being disagreeable. So I think one of the things I'm most proud of is just over the last 4 years, and I hope that Memphians have realized it and seen it, is just how we have approached issues and how we've worked together, the mayor's team, our team, the council, among the council members. And I do believe that's one of the reasons why we have a lot of this positive momentum. I'm proud of the fact that in 10 years that I've been on the council, we haven't had any tax increase. We've doubled our rainy day fund. We have continued to get credit rating upgrades. We've cut about $1 billion off our balance sheet. We've fully funded our pension plan this year, and we've done all this without a tax increase. And again, I think that's really the underpinning of a lot of the economic growth that we have going on in the city right now. And that's important because the more growth means more jobs, and it means more upward mobility and opportunity for Memphians. And I believe that Memphis has arrived. We've always, for many, many years, talked about the potential of Memphis. And I think we're there now. I think we are on the doorstep of it. And we're going to walk through it. And I think the next 10, 15 years are going to be like no other that we've ever seen in Memphis in terms of continuing this trajectory that we're on.
You're certainly seeing it downtown with what's either under construction, in the pipeline, or is already finished. So that's encouraging to see. But you always hear the criticism, but what about the rest of the city?
Sure.
What about Fraser? What about Raleigh? What about Whitehaven? There are projects there too, though, that I think maybe often get overlooked.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to say too, there's a lot of great things going on. We also have major challenges, and we're just as focused on those. The city led on pre-K funding and getting universal needs-based pre-K done. That's going to be huge. We led on, we've got a plan now to end street-level homelessness in 30 months through the repurposing of the old vehicle inspection station on Washington, partnering with the Hospitality Hub to serve the homeless population and try to move people back into you know, the regular population out of homelessness. And there are major projects going on. Just today, I believe it was in the paper, Amazon pulled a $124 million building permit for their multi-level facility out there that they're doing.
4 million square feet.
4 million square feet. That's huge. That's bigger than the FedEx Super Hub.
Yeah.
Under roof. It's bigger than the FedEx Super Hub. And of course, FedEx continues to invest a $1.5 billion hub modernization. The airport's undergoing a $150 million modernization and renovation to improve the customer experience there. We're getting more flights. Prices are coming down. The convention center is about halfway through a $200 million modernization, the highest project ever of MWBE participation. We've moved the needle on that in a major way. Raleigh, we just passed the Raleigh TIF, the Raleigh Springs Mall project. Whitehaven has some of the best investment going on in the whole city with what's going on with Elvis Presley Enterprises and continuing. They want to expand that hotel and do more development. So really throughout the city, we're seeing development and growth And again, at the end of the day, that's opportunity for Memphians.
People may not know this, but your real job is commercial real estate. What are you hearing in that sector in terms of the Memphis office market and opportunities there?
Well, I think one of the, we definitely need more office space, modern office space downtown. It's been about 25 years since there's been a new office building built, and the needs of office users have changed tremendously in terms of what they're looking for. They're looking for larger floor plates. They don't want columns. They want floor-to-ceiling glass. They want other amenities as well. That's one of the reasons why I'm real excited about two other billion-dollar projects that the City Council voted on 2 weeks ago and approved. The initial Pinch District project and then Union Row, and Union Row's already started demolition. And so I think one of the things that we've done too is we've got a motto of doing government at the speed of business. And that doesn't mean we roll over for business, but it means that we understand that people are going to be lifted out of poverty, more prosperity, the better economic environment we have here. And so getting things done quickly, permitting, getting meetings set up and making decisions quickly. And again, that's what businesses are looking for when they're looking to invest. They want to go into a business-like environment where they have some certainty, and I believe that's what we have created with this council and the mayor's team, and why we have so many of these things now that are happening so quickly. And I think you just look at Nashville and you see how fast things can happen. I don't think we should be Nashville. I think we should be uniquely Memphis, but I'd like to get a little bit more of that growth that they're having, and I think we're going to see that. The other thing is when you look at like millennials and younger workers. Looking the kind of housing they want. They don't want a big house and a big yard for the most part. So it's apartments where you can walk to where you work and you've got a lot of amenities nearby. Because of some of the changes we made to the pilot of multifamily development now outside of downtown, you're seeing a lot of units in the Midtown area, and now even in East Memphis being contemplated. So I think the more of this housing we're going to have, then we're going to see the population growth come in, and that's how we increase revenue, because we already have all the infrastructure. So it's not through increased taxes, more people, more businesses, no more infrastructure is needed, and then all that revenue, then we can invest back into these important programs like pre-K, reducing homelessness, workforce development, things like that.
Let me ask you a quick question about the trash situation. You know that right now we're hoping that the City Council will revisit it and vote again on whether to grant the rate hike that Mayor Strickland wanted. Is that what you see happening, and will these jobs that are threatened be saved?
I do think so. I don't think that the folks that do the hard work of working in our sanitation department, keeping Memphis clean, have anything to worry about, especially this time of year in the holidays when you're trying to provide for their families and Christmas and things like this. So my message to those folks is thank you for all you do, and you're going to have a job. We're going to work this out. And to all the people who are afraid that their trash isn't going to get picked up or they're not going to be able to put anything on the curb any longer, don't worry about that. I think, again, over these 4 years, we work through issues. Sometimes, something's got to fail. It can be brought back at the next meeting, and I fully expect that we'll have a big majority of the council that will support, if not exactly what we voted on last time, something very similar.
Your biggest regret of the 10 years you were on council that didn't happen, or something you would like to have seen happen?
Gosh, I don't even know. I'm a kind of the sky's always blue kind of person, and I just try to focus on the good, and I don't try to have a look in the rearview mirror about what didn't happen. I'm so proud of everything that we have accomplished and about what's going on now.
Are you done with public life?
I don't know. I'm trying to get through our meeting next week, and I never say no to anything, but I don't have any immediate plans to do anything, but try to focus on the here and now and finishing strong with this great team that we've got. And we've been working really hard to make sure that we have this new council that's coming on board, that we get them up to speed, transition, so they're ready to hit the ground running.
Expect many major changes with the new council, a lot of new faces.
Yeah, I think it'll be different, and change is good. So I've got a lot of younger folks. Of course, this year was the first year we had 4 African American females on the council, which was fantastic, and now we'll have 5. So it's been neat that we've seen that change over the last 2 years, 2 records on that. We've got a lot of millennials coming in, which is great, and I think that's exactly what we need. The City Council, it's been great. I mean, you've got different ages, races, jobs, parts of the city, and one of the neatest things has been the relationships that we've been able to build with each other. And really, we live in a great city. It's a diverse city, and to really understand and build these relationships in all parts of the city, it's just been really, really rich. And so I'm excited that all the new people coming in get to have this experience. And, you know, I think if people keep their eye on what's important, work as a team and not just focus on themselves, then, you know, the sky's the limit. So
right,
I'm bullish on the future of Memphis.
Well, it's been great working with you the last 10 years.
Appreciate it.
You've been in the public eye.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
I hope you'll give me a call if you have a change of heart here and you decide you're going to run for office.
Thanks
again.
so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be back to my roundtable right after this.
Yummy lip balm.
Yummy lip balm? My lips get so dry and cracked, I need serious relief. That's why I use O'Keeffe's Lip Repair.
It's all-day moisture in one use and is guaranteed relief for extremely dry, cracked lips.
Thanks to O'Keeffe's, I got my lips back.
If not removed, help protect your home with CSL, the creosote sweeping log. It helps clean your chimney while it burns. Inside your chimney walls, there's a constant buildup of flammable tar and creosote. The active minerals in CSL will reduce those dangerous deposits, making your next fires safer. It's so easy. Burn just once every 60 fires. CSL, the creosote sweeping log.
Get CSL. Available at Lowe's, Ace, True Value, and Walmart.
Greater Memphis Chamber presents Memphians on the Move by Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. Please join me as I explore the impacts of those people and companies who are driving economic growth and empowering a stronger workforce in Memphis.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why did the girl ask the mushroom to dance? Because he was a fun guy. What do you call a pig that knows karate? Pork chop. So how does a tissue dance? Put a little boogie on
it. Everyone has a story.
You can overcome.
Stories that matter and are important to you.
Voice to the voiceless.
Stories of grief, triumph, tragedy, and hope. Local 24 News is committed to telling your story, keeping you informed, keeping you safe. Local 24 News with Richard Ransom and Katina Rankin, telling your story. You're watching Local 24 This Week with Richard Ransom.
All right, we're back on Local 24 This Week with my roundtable, Susan Adler-Thorpe, political consultant with Thorpe Communications, and Otis Sanford, Local 24's political analyst and commentator. Let's talk about the trash story first. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because it sounds like this was much ado about nothing. Kemp Conrad would argue so just as much, but in all honesty, it was the mayor who put out in an email, we're talking about almost 275 full and part-time jobs that are at risk here, sanitation workers. It catches your attention in Memphis, Tennessee.
And he did that in order to sort of
catch everybody's attention.
Well, catch everybody's attention, but also to put the city council on the spot here and make them the bad people if this happens. And I think a lot of the city council members, including Kemp Conrad, were sort of caught off guard by the wording of the mayor's email having such dire consequences there. I think Kemp Conrad is absolutely right. It'll be resolved. There are some people who voted against it who will bring it back up on Tuesday. It'll pass with probably about 7, 8, or 9 votes.
Was the mayor's dire wording strictly political? I mean, did he honestly think he was going to have to lay off 275 sanitation workers?
Well, I mean, you know, I can't crawl inside of Jim Strickland's mind and figure out what his actual intent was, but
yeah, but
if
you know
I
how politicians work.
I know him well
you
enough.
Sure do.
I know him well enough to know that what he did was he probably threw it out there and said, okay, don't pass it. But 275 people are going to lose their jobs, and this is on you, City Council, not on me.
Yeah.
And it was the right thing to do politically. You negotiate. And you negotiate, and this was a negotiating tool. You're the bad guys, and I'm the good guy, and now you go figure it out. He's going to get, of the 6 that voted against it, and I don't think Reed Hedgepeth was there for that vote. He'll probably vote in favor of it. But it really doesn't make any difference because of the 6 who voted against it. I bet he gets at least 3 or 4 that'll vote in favor of it.
But you have to remember now that he went ahead full speed on this during an election year.
Yes.
which was really politically beneficial for him to have trash being picked up, and everybody is happy about all of that, and with no total guarantee that the city council would come up with the money later on. So it was a political calculation all along.
You always remember that when it comes to the sanitation department and sanitation workers, that is almost a sacrosanct issue in this community. I mean, you don't interfere with it, you don't touch it. You know, I remember when A.C. Wharton several years ago talked publicly about possibly privatizing the sanitation department, and everybody went up in arms. So nobody's going to do anything that will hurt the sanitation department, and especially some of these who are leaving the council. They don't want that mark against them.
Right. Let me switch gears and talk about alcohol, shall we? There's a push by Brian Kelsey, the Republican state senator from Germantown, there you see him, to make it legal to sell beer and other alcohol at the Memphis Zoo. So you can have a Pinot Noir while you're looking at the penguins, or beer while you look at the bears, margaritas while you look at the monkeys. On and on I could go. Right here, I won't, but you would think I had that. But anyway, apparently this is already legal in Nashville and Knoxville. Right. So why Memphis would be last on this one, I don't know. But it seems to me that even though I did a little poll on my Twitter feed of were you in favor of it or not, 60% roughly thought it was a good idea. 35% didn't think it was very family friendly. I see it both ways. We all hear the horror stories of Chuck E. Cheese, and when a little too much alcohol by mom and dad, things got a little out of control. But what do you think?
Well, I think it's the most ridiculous issue that we've ever discussed in the show. I mean,
that's a lot. That's a
right. That's a tall.
It is ridiculous. I mean, come on. We sell beer at the Redbird Stadium. I mean, you can't have a more family-friendly event than going to a baseball game in the afternoon. Yeah, I mean, we sell beer at Tigers games. We sell beer
SEC
everywhere.
Games now.
You sell beer everywhere, and wine. And I mean, even again at Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, so why not? They have beer and wine at the zoo when they have events at the Zoo Brew and Zoo Rendezvous. I mean, it's just so nonsensical. But what's more ridiculous is we live in a conceal and carry state. You get more people walking into that zoo, I'll bet you, with guns on them. And we don't stop them from bringing guns into the zoo, but they can't have a beer. The whole thing is ridiculous.
Well, that's an interesting question. Should we stop them from bringing guns in? If
yeah,
we're going to be
then you get into a state issue. Then you get into a state issue. This is a local issue.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, very briefly here, I do think it's kind of a nonsensical argument. But let's be honest now. Some of the people who may be against this will think that, well, there may be somebody who will drink a lot of beer and then get real bold and go into some cage somewhere or go into some animal sanctuary. It has happened.
Well, let's put a financial spin on this, too. That if the zoo is allowed to sell beer and wine, they can make $1 million a year just on the sales of beer and wine. I mean, and just think, that's $1 million less they have to come to the taxpayers for if they need improvements at the zoo.
Well, all I'm saying is if that happens and somebody has too many beers and gets over into the cage and tries to stare down a lion and something happens, then we have some liability issues here.
Well, that's when insurance kicks in, and that's when they better have insurance, too.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I just can't stop thinking about the potential for drinking games. You could do rum shots at the rhinoceros exhibit. All right, I'll stop. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about downtown development and some concerns that maybe we're a little too smitten with some of the proposals out there. We'll be right back.
Everyone who has ever lived has lived here. All of mankind's triumphs and failures. Every moment, every hometown. All here. We start our coverage on the ground and take it to the airwaves, so you always know what's happening in your own world and beyond. We are free TV and radio. We are breaking news. We are always there. We are broadcasters.
You know the time is right to get the tools you trust. Lowe's is here with more of the tools and accessories that pros want at our lowest prices of the year.
Get your choice of a DeWalt cordless drill or 2-pack battery set for $99. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Here's what some of our clients have to say about us.
It's easy with Martese. It's easy with Martese. With Martese, it's easy. It's easy with Martese. It's easy with Martese.
One call, that's all.
Call 526-2126.
Get the season's hottest must-haves at Olive Garden. New oven-baked pastas starting at $10.99. Indulgent pastas baked bubbling hot, like new tortelloni chicken Alfredo. New oven-baked pastas for a limited time only at Olive Garden.
Through a series of events only God could orchestrate, the young man was transformed by a message that would end up touching millions of lives throughout the world. Discover what God can do with just one person that answers his call. Watch the Christian Worship Hour this week and learn about the amazing new film, Heart of a Shepherd, The Extraordinary Life of Harold E. Salem. Visit ChristianWorshipHour.com for more information about the film and weekly program times.
You're watching Local 24 this week with Richard Ransom.
We've been talking a lot about downtown development on this show over the past year because there's been so much to talk about, and there's really a lot of encouraging developments. I want to stray for that just a little bit, though, because as we record this today, we're learning about a 3.8 million square foot warehouse facility that Amazon wants to build in the Fraser-Raleigh area. All under one roof. It's going to be monstrous. And I don't think we have, in a city that's full of warehouses, we have nothing close to how big this is going to be. About 1 million square feet on 4 different floors. Incredible. Just a really good development. It's 1,000 jobs, if not more, for that part of town.
That's wonderful.
Oh, that's huge.
And Amazon seems to be really bullish on Memphis. It's not just that, but there's other facilities in Olive Branch, and it's hopefully a good sign. So we'll move to downtown, and one development that's getting some heat is the one in the Pinch District. It's an out-of-town investor by the name of Tom Intrater. And he envisions multi-office towers, retail. He's buying up property left and right in the Pinch District, and has kind of that quirky, eccentric attitude that a lot of successful developers have. But it is also causing some controversy. There was a letter to Tom Intrater written by Taylor Berger, who's with some Memphis restaurants, a group of Memphis restaurants in town, and he said to Tom, "We're just not sure you're the guy. Imagine someone wrote you a letter describing who you are, what you need to do, and how you should go about it. So when someone pops up asking for no meetings except those resulting in tax incentives, forgive us for being just a little apprehensive." Does he make a good point, Otis?
Well, he makes a point. I don't know that he makes a good point. You know, there have been other out-of-town developers who have come into the city, and
well, I think we're soured. That's part of the problem.
Well, it
had some bad experiences.
But, you know, the same thing is happening over at Union Row. Those folks are from out of town as well. I guess my major concern here is there's a lot of office space that we're talking about here, both in the Pinch District and at Union Row, and I'm just not sure that we have the wherewithal to fill all of that office space. I don't know where those offices are going to come from. But until there's an absolute understanding that this is either pie in the sky or maybe we are giving too much, I say full speed ahead on all of these things because they are game changers for development downtown.
Well, you know, there's a reason why we have this new verb that only Memphians understand. It's called "have you been schlinkered?" And I think that is the underpinning of everybody's concern is, you know, the vivid memory of Sidney Schlinker coming to town. The difference between Schlinker and this gentleman is that Schlinker used public funds.
Yes.
This man is not using public funds. He's asking for public incentives once he delivers. The question is, can he really deliver? Right. Now, as someone said to me, if he disappears in a year from now, what have we lost? We've lost nothing except he owns 45% of the Pinch District. So, you know, he bought it fair and square. So what he eventually does with it, we'll have to wait and see. But if he wants to develop it, I think it's great. I think any development for this town is terrific. I think there's a little bit of ill will or controversy between him and St. Jude, because St. Jude owns also a great deal of the Pinch, and I think that St. Jude, who wants to develop the Pinch, also is against some of the larger towers that he plans to put there. So maybe there will be some kind of compromise in between. Maybe this gentleman won't build anything at all. We have to wait and see, but I encourage him to go ahead with it.
Plus, very briefly, most of the people who are in political office these days are too young to even remember Sidney Schlenker. That happened a long time ago in the very early 90s.
Well, explain really quick for those who are watching and say, who the heck is he?
Well, why don't you, because I was actually not living here either at the time, but
I was definitely here. He's no longer living. He was a developer out of Texas, Houston, I think, who came to Memphis, and I think he had some kind of partnership with the late John Tigert, and they came up with this idea to build this huge arena in downtown Memphis called the Pyramid. And they built it in the worst spot possible. It was basically in a hole. And so they built the pyramid, and it languished there forever. It was always a burden on county and city taxpayers. Eventually, you know, we were able to work out the deal with Bass Pro, but it was something that we lost for years. We lost money on the pyramid.
It was an arena never really meant to be an arena. It had terrible acoustics and seating and all of that.
It was, yes.
Exactly.
All right, so anyway, he came to town, and because it was such a failure in many people's eyes, Memphians a little testy, a little nervous.
We don't want to be Schlenkered again.
We don't want to be Schlenkered again.
Right.
And
he did become a verb. There's no doubt about that.
And I think that's really the underpinning of this. I mean, we really don't know anything about this man. I think that it's up to our friends, the journalists, to go find out really who he is, like that big takeout piece that Mark Periskia did not long ago with Kevin Adams. I mean, he certainly should be subject to something like this and let us know who is this man. And, you know, if he comes here and totally legit and he's bought our property, it belongs to him now, let's see if he can develop it, and let's see if we can't support him on it.
Okay, we'll keep following it for sure. We'll stay on it. We'll be right back to wrap things up right after this.
I'm Local 24 meteorologist Chelsea Chandler. Before you get your kids ready for school each day, make sure you catch my bus stop forecast so they're prepared throughout the day. It's weekdays on Good Day Memphis, 5 to 7.
The bus stop forecast on Good Day Memphis is brought to you by NST.
Treat yourself to the sweet taste of Popeye's Hot Honey Chicken. Get 2 pieces of chicken drizzled in our delicious hot honey sauce, plus a side and a biscuit, all for just $5. It's a deal that's too sweet to pass up.
What's up? Shopping health plans. I just want good coverage we can afford. Why just good? You deserve better. Wouldn't that be nice? Check out Ambetter. You get affordable coverage with benefits we can really use, and you could even get help paying for it. Seriously? So your health plan actually keeps your budget healthy too? Yeah. Now that is better. Much better. Huh.
Switch today. Affordable coverage, valuable benefits. Now that's better.
To the outside world, you look good, but you don't feel good. With polycythemia vera, PV, symptoms can change so slowly over time, you might not notice. But new or changing symptoms can mean your PV is changing. Let's change the way we see PV. You track and discuss blood counts with your doctor, but it's just as vital to discuss changing symptoms as well. Take notice and take action. Discuss counts and symptoms with your doctor. Visit takeactionpv.com.
Bright. Joy can light up the sky and bring the biggest smile to the smallest face. Every kid deserves a little joy, a toy. It's not just a thing, it's a chance to spread joy from one person to another and say your joy matters. This holiday season, help to share the joy. Join the world's ultimate toy drive and donate a new unwrapped toy to Toys for Tots. Go to toysfortots.org/holiday for details.
All right, my thanks to Otis and Susan and to you at home for being here with us. We hope to see you next week for Local 24 This Week.